It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10. Our top story. The heroes of the Heaton Park synagogue. We hear first-hand accounts of how worshippers helped to barricade the doors during the terror attack.
All I was thinking was we've got to keep these doors closed. There was one guy, he's in his late 70s, and he says, "I'm not moving from this door. No one is moving me from..."
Police investigators suspected arson attack at a mosque in East Sussex as the Home Secretary pledges to tackle rising community tensions.
I'm Yalda Hakim live from Jerusalem as negotiations to lock down a peace deal between Israel and Hamas is set to get underway. Israeli airstrikes and tank fire continue to pound Gaza as Donald Trump says his plan to end the fighting is a great deal for Israel, but opens the door to negotiation.
We don't need flexibility because everybody's pretty much agreed to it, but there'll always be some changes.
Also coming up on News at 10, Kemi Badenoch admits her party has a mountain to climb as she unveils a package of measures to tackle migration at Conservative Party conference. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30. Good evening. Tributes have been paid to the victims of the Manchester terror attack at events in the city and in London, marking the second anniversary of the October the 7th attacks. Today also saw the first funeral of one of the victims, Melvin Kravitz. Sky News has heard first-hand accounts from worshippers who helped barricade the doors of the synagogue. They include Alan Levy, who was in the car park in Crumpsall when Jihad al-Shami rammed a car into people and stabbed them. Mr Levy's son told us he only knew his father was safe when he saw him on Sky News. They've been speaking to our People and Politics correspondent, Nick Martin.
When the attack started, there were those inside who acted without thought. They are the heroes of the Heaton Park synagogue.
I was in the car park in the grounds of the synagogue when it first happened.
Get back! If you're not involved, move back!
I was there when he crashed his car into the synagogue gates and ran down the security guard that was there. I then ran into the synagogue and basically locked the synagogue down, told everyone under attack, and then me and a number of the congregants, brave men, came and helped barricade the doors to stop him coming in because he was shoulder charging the doors trying to get in. He was throwing plant pots at the glass. He was using a knife to try and get in. All I was thinking was we've got to keep these doors closed. There was one guy, he's in his late 70s, and he says, "I'm not moving from this door. No one is moving me from this door."
Well, the first time I realised something was wrong was when one of the congregants ran into the main building, telling us to lock the back doors. At that point, knew that we were being attacked. So I went towards the foyer to see if he was out there. At which point I was able to see the attacker banging on the window.
I first knew that there was an incident when my phone started lighting up repeatedly. I realised that there was an attack on my synagogue, and I knew at that time that my father would have been on security at that time. I knew my family members were inside. I didn't know whether they were injured or had been one of the fatalities.
We told the people in the synagogue we were under attack. Try and stay calm, stay on the ground. One of the guys, Yoni, just fell on the ground and said, "I think I've been hit." And then he passed out. Didn't realise at that time that Adrian had also been hit, because Adrian was actually behind him. We saw that the police had come, you know, and they were shouting to him in the grounds, telling him to put his weapon put his weapon down and lie on the ground, but he wouldn't. And he started to make a move towards one of the officers, and this officer shot him. And then, after a few seconds, he tried to get up. So he got shot again.
Alan, how would you describe the effort carried out by you and others to protect that synagogue that day?
I just think we were all very brave. Everyone who went, everyone in there, we're just very brave. You know, we wanted to protect our synagogue.
This is clearly a very major incident here.
I looked up and I saw on the Sky News live feed my father walking in the street. That I realised that he was not one of the victims. We owe them all a huge debt of gratitude for ensuring that this terrorist was not able to enter the synagogue.
I didn't see what happened to Melvin, but he must have been hit by the car. Melvin was a worshipper. It seems was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Adrian, he would help anyone. A lovely, lovely, quiet, unassuming man. Adrian came out into the foyer. Adrian was holding one of those doors, and unfortunately, he's lost his life.
And how have you been in the last couple of days?
Flashbacks, feelings of anxiety at times. My synagogue is a spiritual home, and this has partly shattered it, which is a shame.
I'm upset. You know, I just find it hard, you know, seeing what I saw, being involved in what I was involved in. I struggle to sleep because I get sort of flashbacks. What happened? Anyone, you know, should be able to go to their place of worship and be allowed to pray in peace.
Police are treating a suspected arson attack at a mosque in East Sussex as a hate crime. It compounds a weekend of tensions which saw hundreds of arrests at pro-Palestine demonstrations, despite calls from the Prime Minister to cancel in the aftermath of that synagogue attack in Manchester. And now the Home Secretary has set out plans to impose restrictions on repeat protests. Our Communities correspondent Lisa Holland reports.
A masked man appears to push at the front door of the mosque. Then, caught on doorbell camera, as he bends down, a second person to the left of picture can be seen. An accelerant is poured on the steps before a flash as fire breaks out. A local taxi driver who was inside manages to flee the building.
It was after hours, so after prayer hours, so the door was locked. There was 3 attempts made at opening the door while he was inside. And then, you know, as people couldn't get inside, they lit up the entire place up to his car.
Police are now investigating the incident as a possible hate crime. But as forensic officers gathered evidence at the scene in Peacehaven in East Sussex, it was clear the attack came as no surprise amongst the Muslim community.
I never noticed any tension, any hatred, but it's very obvious it become very strong nowadays. We have Muslim ladies, when they left the mosque, they been abused by people passing by and said, we don't want you in your local community. Go back to Pakistan. Go back to where you come from.
Over the weekend, tensions elsewhere, with protesters accused of being tone deaf to the Jewish community, as nearly 500 people were arrested on Saturday after ignoring requests to cancel or postpone a rally in London in support of the banned group Palestine Action so soon after the Manchester terror attack. The Home Secretary has now announced increased powers to prevent repeat protests such as this one, which soak up resources that could be deployed elsewhere, especially amongst communities with an increased sense of vulnerability.
I acknowledge that there is a huge uptick in the demands for the police. We have a whole range of protests. We've had a number of near misses around migrant hotels. A mosque was set on fire last night. We've had an anti-Semitic terrorist attack on UK soil as well. I think we should all acknowledge the complexity of the picture that the police are dealing with.
A complex picture, but in the wake of what happened in Manchester, the Jewish community say the attack on them came after years of growing anti-Semitism.
When Jew hatred is allowed to flourish in any society, Jews are the canary in the coal mine. Anti-Semitism starts with the Jews, but it doesn't end with the Jews. It is a sign of extremism, and it is a sign of a malaise and a sickness deep within that society. The past predicates the future.
It has been a long and difficult summer in terms of community relations. There have been weeks of protests outside hotels housing asylum seekers across the country, giving a voice to people concerned about immigration, but which some fear may have emboldened those with racist views. Another dimension of a fragmented Britain where divisions show no sign of healing. Lisa Holland, Sky News.
Good evening from Jerusalem. I'm Yalda Hakim. Hopes for a ceasefire continue to hang in the balance. It's now nearly 2 years since the October 7th attacks, when Hamas led a coordinated attack on Israel from Gaza, killing nearly 1,200 people and taking more than 240 people hostage. Israel's military response since then has been devastating, with more than 67,000 Palestinians killed, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Indirect negotiations between Israel and Hamas will begin tomorrow in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, with the discussions expected to focus on the proposed exchange of Israeli hostages for Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. Egypt's foreign ministry said tonight that President Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff will also join the talks. Earlier, Mr. Trump hinted that there was room for some changes to his 20-point plan. And a warning that this report from our international correspondent Alex Rossi has some distressing images.
A ceasefire may be close, but the misery of this war in Gaza is still unrelenting. Shadi Mansour carries the body of his son, killed when their residential block was targeted by Israeli bombardments. As he staggers across the rubble, under the weight of grief, you can hear the ever-present whine of a drone overhead.
As you can see, the targets of the Israeli army are not resistance fighters or so-called militants, as they claim. They are children. This is Amir, my son. I had him at age 40. Tell me, does he look like a fighter? Is he a militant? The truth is, the army's targets are children.
Israel claims it only attacks military targets and denies accusations of genocide. This video, released by the IDF, claims to show forces engaging Hamas fighters in Khan Yunis, the militants moving through what's described as a humanitarian zone before they are struck by a missile. The war in Gaza has raged for nearly 2 years, but there is now significant momentum to bring it to a close. The United States believes the hostages could be back soon.
We have very little, we don't need flexibility because everybody's pretty much agreed to it, but there'll always be some changes. But the Hamas plan, I tell you, it's amazing. You could have peace, if you think about it, peace in the Middle East for the first time in, they say, really, 3,000 years.
The 20-point peace plan's been accepted by Israel, and Hamas has also conditionally agreed. On the surface, there is optimism and a willingness to engage with Trump's vision for ending the war. Both Hamas and Israel are under enormous pressure to stay on board with the process. But there is still plenty that could go wrong, many obstacles to overcome when the negotiations begin in Egypt. Israel has also made clear that there will not be much room for negotiation.
In an agreement with the Trump administration, talks will be confined to a few days maximum, with no tolerance for maneuvers that will delay talks.
For the hostage families, these are anxious hours as they wait to find out if their loved ones are coming home.
I wish I would have known why President Trump didn't put his foot down far earlier to end this war. I think that he is incredibly significant in getting to the point where we are. And I would say he has leverage that nobody else has.
The devastation and pain that this war has brought is simply horrific. An end to the fighting may soon be within grasp, but for the moment, the suffering continues. Allahu Akbar. Alex Rossi, Sky News, Jerusalem.
Let's bring in our Middle East correspondent, Adam Parsons, who's here with me live this evening. Adam, a lot is going on. We know that Benjamin Netanyahu is meeting with his team and delegation, and of course a Hamas delegation has arrived this evening in Sharm el-Sheikh.
Yeah, exactly. Led by Khalil al-Hayya. That delegation is there now. That's notable because, bluntly, the Israelis tried to kill him recently when they attacked Doha. He was part of that senior Hamas leadership team who escaped. I think it's notable that Hamas have picked him to lead that team. Also notable that Ron Dermer will be leading this for Israel, a very, very trusted lieutenant, long-standing, of Benjamin Netanyahu. I mean, these talks will be indirect. The Israelis and Hamas will not sit down and talk to each other, but they are going to happen. And as you said, Steve Witkoff and the American team look like they're on the way. And there is something, yeah, we've had so many false dawns here, but this does feel like there is traction behind it. And why? Because I think Benjamin Netanyahu is almost subject to a, if not a pincer movement, something maybe more than that. The Israeli public feel as if they're fed up. They want a resolution. I've been in touch today with people from the military. They echo that. They are weary. They want to see something done. And everyone is saying the same thing. There's a deal there to bring back the hostages. And we've been hearing for the past 2 years that that is the priority. Fundamentally, though, this is going to come down, like all deals, like all political negotiations, to the concessions. The Israeli government will have to make concessions. Sometimes they might be concessions so big that could mean the collapse of that coalition. Hamas will have to make concessions, and then maybe Arab states, maybe the Palestinian Authority. So many moving parts to this. But you know, a few weeks ago, it didn't seem as if this was possible. And ultimately, Donald Trump, that gravitational pull that he has, that ability to say things, and the fact that the US president says something and then it happens, unarguably has created momentum here. The question is whether that momentum turns out to be a big deal. I think there's a couple of sticking points. One will be the prisoner, what they call the prisoner exchange, how those hostages are brought back, who they're exchanged for. The big one will be the future of the Gaza Strip. Hamas insisting on Palestinian self-determination, and that is something we know that Netanyahu is hugely reluctant to concede any ground on.
Yeah, and Adam will be here throughout the week following all the developments, including marking October 7 on Tuesday. Thank you so much. We're focused here on the situation in Gaza and, of course, with the hostages and the situation on the ground. But I just want to shift your focus to Afghanistan, which is still reeling a month on from the devastating earthquake, which killed more than 2,000 people. The force of the quake ripped apart roads, cut off communities and buried multiple generations. A country already grappling with an economic crisis, drought and malnutrition. A series of earthquakes left the survivors wondering how they will live through the winter. Well, 3 major earthquakes, the first a magnitude 6, wiped out entire villages when they struck remote areas of the country's east. A month on, rescue efforts have been hampered by a lack of aid, partly as it's harder for international organisations to function since the Taliban returned to power in 2021. The Nurgal and Chowkay districts of Kunar province were among the hardest hit areas. Sky's Asia correspondent Cordelia Lynch visited villages in those areas and spoke to survivors who fear they won't make it through the harsh winter.
They are mountains of mesmerising beauty, but nestled in these remote peaks, these isolated valleys, are the scars of a disaster. And we're trying to get to the heart of it. A long, challenging journey into Afghanistan's eastern Kunar province, where an earthquake has wiped out whole villages. This is Wadir, a basin of devastation. Hollowed out homes, haunting traces of the lives crushed beneath them. Everyone here has lost someone, and many of the dead are children, killed in their sleep. You can see the weight in little Rahmanullah's eyes, his fragile hands pointing at the grave of his 6-year-old brother, Abu Zar.
I was asleep when I heard a crash. My brother said, "Give me your hand. It's an earthquake. Get up, or the building will fall on you." Then he took my hand and pulled me out, put me on some wood, and said, "Get out quick."
He wants to take us to the ruins of his home, followed by the brother who saved him. These slopes were peppered with mud brick homes, crushed in an instant. Abu Zar was trapped inside.
We tried to pull him out, but we couldn't. We couldn't reach him and he died. We were all distraught. My mother and father are suffering a lot because we lost our brother, because we love him, because he was the youngest child. Now we're so sad. God took him from us.
These are conservative religious communities, now full of fractured families. Helicopters were used to ferry the dead and injured. Local people told us the Taliban and aid workers were quick to reach them. And amongst the wreckage, there are rare but remarkable stories of survival. This is Medina. She was buried up to her neck until neighbours managed to reach her.
I was buried up to here, stuck 3 of my fingers out and waved. A boy came by and said, "Are you underneath here?" Rubble, wood and dirt had covered me, right up to here. They took the shovel and they dug.
God forgive me, she says. Whole worlds have been shattered here. 21 members of Shah Mohammad's family were killed. This is raw destruction in an incredibly remote place. The valleys are now scarred with grief, and the many very poor families have the heavy burden of trying to rebuild. But foreign aid has dropped off a cliff since the Taliban took control. Their crackdown on the rights of women and girls a major barrier. This year, the US cut almost all its funding. And Afghanistan was already crippled by an economic crisis, drought and malnutrition. In Mazar-e Valley, this is what life looks like now. Tents full of the displaced, some who walked hours to get here. Ajiba married at 10 years old. She went on to have 10 children. 5 of them died in the quake.
All of them were my children. They were all beautiful. The youngest one, everyone loved her. Everyone played with her. She was so pretty. Now, every evening I dream of her coming home with the other children. We don't know how to live without her.
Killed alongside Shabana was 7-year-old Wali Khan, 9-year-old twins Razima and Nasreen, and 13-year-old Saleha. Asiya survived, but her mother says it took 3 weeks for her to utter a single word. This is a collective trauma, and now they're staring down the barrel of a very cold winter.
We don't have anything for winter. The snow is coming, and our children are living in tents. They are lying in the dirt. We don't have any shelter for the future. Everything we had is destroyed.
Help is trickling through, but these people are hugely exposed, praying they'll make it through the winter. Cordelia Lynch, Sky News, Kunar Province in eastern Afghanistan.
Kemi Badenoch has declared her party is up for the fight as she kicked off the Conservative conference in Manchester this afternoon. It was a chance to lay out the Tories' policy plans and a possible path back to power with a focus on immigration. But not everyone is happy. Here's our political correspondent, Amanda Akas.
We're having a really good conference and everyone is thrilled that we have...
It's a make or break moment for the Tory leader. After a year in charge, she's now announcing policies.
And you're moving towards a kind of Trump-style politics with your ICE announcement?
We're doing what is right for our country.
Kemi Badenoch is promising to create a tough US-style immigration removals force, to tighten up asylum rules and to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. But rumours about plots to oust her are the talk of conference.
Are you worried about a leadership challenge from Robert Jenrick?
Yeah, sorry.
With reports of some frustration in the shadow cabinet.
But Mr Cleverly, what do you think of her leadership style? Are you considering another run at it yourself in November?
Again, pay attention when I speak in the past. I've said this constant cycling through leaders has proven to be really counterproductive. It's not a good idea. I ran, I got beaten. I'm totally comfortable with that. Kemi's in charge, and as I say, she's doing it right. And what we need to do now is support her to actually deliver for the country.
So do you rule out
now, will you forget
leadership next May?
There is not going to be another leadership thing.
Kemi Badenoch told conference her party is getting ready for its comeback.
Only Conservatives have the courage, the honesty and the plan to strengthen our borders, restore our sovereignty and rebuild our prosperity. We have a mountain to climb, but we have a song in our hearts, and we are up for the fight.
An enthusiastic reception from delegates here in the hall. But Kemi Badenoch's under huge pressure this party conference, with the Conservatives languishing far behind Reform in the polls and behind Labour too. Under party rule, she's protected from the leadership challenge until November, but there's already talk of no confidence letters being prepared.
The former leadership rival Robert Jenrick denied suggestions he'd do a better job.
It's a silly question. Like, that's ancient history. Kemi's just delivered an extremely good speech, which I'm sorry you missed, but it was an extremely good speech.
Waiting for you.
She's made an excellent speech today. We should be rooting for her and getting behind her right now.
I do have an issue with leaving the European Convention on Human Rights.
But some One Nation Tories, like former Lord Chancellor Robert Buckland, have big concerns.
I think there are dangers inherent in this. One of Britain's great contributions to the world has been its leadership on international cooperation. We do not need to leave the European Convention. I think it would be a mistake.
Party members have mixed views on the new border policies.
Anything with the word Trump in is a bit scary, actually, but we do have to take control of the borders.
I would say I was sort of slightly more of a centrist, but I can see that something's got to happen.
Like most Conservatives, Kemi Badenoch's political hero is Margaret Thatcher. But the Iron Lady didn't have to contend with Reform UK. And it's that fight which could consign Badenoch and her party to the history books. Amanda Akas, Sky News, Manchester.